Welcome to episode 3 of the Team Avatar show. And again, we have new guests because that's what we do here. We've got Luke, who's returning.
Returning guest.
And then we have Logan. And we don't have to do the nonsense old Logan, new Logan stuff this time. But yeah, so we're going to be doing episode 3. And we'll start off the same way we did the last episode because I liked that format. We'll talk about some positives. We'll talk about some negatives. Let us know what you guys thought in the comments. And I guess I'll start out with Luke since he was missing from last episode. What are your positive takeaways from episode 3?
So I got some notes this time. I got these notes written down. The first big positive, in my opinion, is I liked Iroh and Zuko in this. I feel like it feels like how they were the original show. Yeah, I think they are playing a good part. Another positive I have here is Cabbage's guy. I like seeing the "not my cabbages." I like that guy, and that's about it.
Oh my!
Yeah,
that was quick.
Yeah, I have a lot of moments here where I'm just like, "What?" or "Why?" or "Now, come on now."
Well, yeah. To be honest, after this episode, when you watched it, you did put on "This show sucks."
Yeah,
so.
no, I was like, the first message I put in the group chat is finish episode 3. This show sucks.
All right. Well.
But yeah, no, I think Iroh and Zuko best part of this episode. Honestly, probably gonna be the best part of the show for me in general. Just Iroh and Zuko.
Yeah,
my opinion.
I'm in the same boat. All right, Logan. Any positives you want to talk about on this episode?
The only positives I could talk about is some of the actors. The script is just ass in my opinion. But yeah, I'll say Jet. I thought his acting, what he had to work with, and like his whole crew did pretty good. Zuko, once again, the whole Fire Nation, the bad guys, spectacular acting from them. Avatar again sucks at it, but that's all I have to say for any positives. Just the acting was okay. Story wise, Tio and all that was fine. Story wise, though, no. So the only positives is just the fire people, the bad guys. Yeah.
I tried to be very positive, even though I didn't like this episode very much. But I thought Katara was solid in this episode. Again, I want to preference something before we get deeper in this episode, because I've been told there's a lot of season 2 stuff that happens in this episode and the next episode.
Yeah, episode 4 specifically.
And I haven't watched season 2, so certain things, like, I'm just going based on, this is my first experience with certain elements. So I will say, on adaptation-wise, I have no experience there. But I will say, I didn't know, like, for instance, the Fire Lord has no personality. Like, you don't meet him in the first season of the original. And then also his daughter, you also don't meet in the first season. So I thought they were solid. From what I could tell, I was interested by their characters because they got more to do with. So, again, the Fire Nation kind of stuff I enjoyed. That isn't to say I liked everything with Zuko and Iroh's plot, but I liked them as characters in the episode. Again, they are still the strongest, like kind of both Luke and Logan talked about. So again, the Fire Nation plot I thought was pretty solid. I did like a specific moment with Sokka in this episode. I still kind of had my issues with it, but it was like a moment with Sokka and the engineer guy. I don't remember his name. And basically it was one of those things where it's like Sokka is at least getting some talk with someone that's kind of like a dad figure, and it's like Sokka's dad hasn't been around for a while. So it was kind of a nice moment where it's like, oh yeah, Sokka, you could be a good engineer or something like that. It was kind of nice. Unfortunately, Sokka's line deliveries continuing not very good in this episode. Or maybe what he's being given. I think it's a mixture of a lot of things, but like Logan talked about, I don't really feel like the acting or the stuff being given to our main trio is very good. The visuals I thought was pretty solid. Outside of that, I mean, I liked bits and pieces of like Jet's moments with Katara. Again, we have conflicting viewpoints on this between me and Logan, but I thought it was nice the way they tied in Katara's background with her ability to waterbend. I did think that was pretty solid. But outside of that, that was kind of my positives. So, go ahead, Logan.
I'd like to add on to the positive as well. I forgot to mention is Sokka. We saw a little bit of old Sokka whenever Aang comes into the door, and Sokka's like, "Oh, hey, Aang, check this out," and he throws like that little bird. That I felt that was like the cartoon Sokka, how he's like, crafting something. So there's like a burst of energy right there from his acting, but then the rest is
All right. Any other positives that we want to talk about before we move to negatives?
I just want to say, like, I completely forgot to mention, I did like the visuals, like you said. I feel like all the Earthbender guards guys look great.
Yeah.
Like, when they're dressed up, it's like, yeah, that's pretty much how I imagine it would look like in real life. And I did like when they were trying to get into Omashu, we got to see that scene again that we saw in the cartoon where they're like, "Get out of here!" They just yeet the dudes,
that
like,
was
fucking
funny.
wag it into the ravine. But yeah, no, that's about it.
I will say though, that does make me question things later on, because that's a negative I'll look at a little bit later when it comes to just the logic behind the Earth Kingdom's security. It just seems very like hit or miss at times, but that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, I think one thing I will say about the Netflix show so far, 4 episodes in, is you can really tell they at least put the money behind the show to make it look pretty
Yeah.
good visually. A lot of the problems that I have do not stem from that aspect of the show. A lot of the problems I have is either the direction, writing, or the acting performances. So those are big ones, but yeah. So that kind of moves us into the negatives. And Logan, I'll start with you since we started with Luke last time. Hit us with your negatives. Your favorite part of the episode.
The argument between Sokka and Katara, in my opinion, made 0 sense.
Wait, which argument? Which one?
The
Do you-
one where
so-
she's like, "You're treating me like a little girl." Whenever
Oh,
they're
the same argument they keep having.
Yeah. So in episode 3, somehow Aang finds out who the bad guys are, and then so does Katara. And the way that Katara finds out in the show makes kind of sense. The way that Aang finds out and just coming to speculations, because the only person who has talked to Jet at this point after they get dropped off was Katara. So
Well,
anyone who has like an idea, like Aang, for example, finding out who is making the bombs does not make any sense at all. The other thing that does not make any sense in this show is when Katara just randomly says, "Stop treating me like a little girl" to Sokka. And then Sokka's like, "Well, then grow up." In the entire show so far, we have never seen them conflict like we did in cartoons of Sokka being overprotective of his sister, like in the cartoons, or probably because it's too sexist and whatever, but we don't ever get that energy that there was like that tension building up. Like the only times I see Sokka being resentful in some things is once they get Aang, they drop him off on Kyoshi Island. It's like, "All right, Katara, we did it. Let's leave now." That was the only time that we had conflicting interests. Then as they got on Appa, Sokka and the trio started saying, "Yeah, we're making a pact. Let's do this together." And then out of nowhere, Katara has that little burst of "Stop treating like this." When they got rid of that aspect of Sokka completely, I don't know if you guys agree with me in that or what, but that's just how I saw that scene. It came out of the blue with it, especially coming to conclusions on who's the bad guy, because no one has talked to Jet at all besides Katara, and I can't remember if it was Sokka. No, it was Sokka said he was a con artist. Well, how do you know that if your only experience with Jet was him bringing you into the city, unlike in the cartoon where Aang and the trio goes to Jet's hideout and actually hangs out with them for a bit, while in the show it's only Katara who's hanging out with them, while Aang is hanging out with Tio trying to find where the bombs are being made, and then Sokka's there like trying to make stuff and seeing how the Mechanist like is making stuff and is interested in that.
Well,
I don't know.
let me cut you off.
Yeah.
So the way that the show tries to do it is very sloppy. They say, "Okay, this is Jet's." It's like jacket or coat
Yeah,
or
it was
something.
the same stuff that they saw inside the wagon.
My problem with it is like I get the reasoning, but at the same time, it's like there's multiple people that could have the same coat or
Yeah.
jacket. So I feel like just pinning it on, oh yeah, it has to be the character of Jet, and then that's why Sokka launches on, because Sokka already didn't like him
Yeah,
because he was hitting on
Sokka already
Katara.
didn't like him because
So it's just bias. That's
Yeah,
what happened.
it just didn't feel right because in the original show, Sokka's overhearing the actual plan and Katara's in love, and then that's why the argument was more impactful. While this is just like he said, she said situation where there's real no evidence. Right now, Katara's more in the right, in my opinion, because the Mechanist could also have that same coat, like Luke was saying, as well.
Well,
But
I don't think in the show they're arguing who's right. Like, I feel like it's pretty obvious. Like Sokka is very biased in this situation.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's
what
more
that's
of
what I'm
that
saying.
situation.
Is they kind of ruin like the whole argument for her to say "stop treating me like a girl." There was like no build up to even say that line. Whenever in the show, you never see that. In my
I mean, I
opinion,
think you're right. Like, I do think their relationship's underdeveloped.
Yeah,
I think
and
that's
then
the problem with all these characters is just they're trying to condense everything.
But especially
so
the
much.
core 3 are underdeveloped.
the other thing I don't like about the one scene I hate is when Jet and Katara are alone and she learns how to water bend. Even though in the previous episode she's been flawlessly water bending the entire time. Like in episode 1, when Zuko fires that giant fireball at them, Katara literally pulls up a wave of water and blocks it, and has like no problems with it. Whenever Jet if back on Kyoshi Island, Katara also takes water from the stream and throws it at them the same way when she does to hit the pan. And then in the same episode, episode 3, the one with Jet in it, whenever they're fighting that firebender spy, she used the move to throw water at 2 splashes of water on the people as well. So it's like Jet taught her nothing, in my opinion. I guess just to get over like her PTSD, but she was already able to do those exact moves the entire time.
See, I don't remember it that way.
No,
I remember it as like, yeah, she does do waterbending moves, but she was specifically trying to do like the whip move that she tries to do in the original. And so that's the way I look at it. She like he was trying to teach her like how to, work with her emotions into her waterbending. Not how to actually teach her how to waterbend, but trying to like clear her mind, use her emotions. It's like, this is the best way I'll put it. It's like Magneto with Professor X in the like reboot of the X-Men. I forget which one it is. It's like the first X-Men team reboot or whatever.
But the thing is, though, they use the same animation, the water animation, and movements that she's already been using in the previous episodes to do the same move.
Like the whole, a little more whippy.
I don't remember it that way. But I mean, again, you could be right. That's not how I remember it.
Because even whenever the whole like place was on fire after the bomb, how they were putting out the fire, how Tia was like, "You're an airbender. You're a water." You could see her manipulating it flawlessly to put out stuff, so it's like she has no issue.
Well, the way I see
that was basically my negatives at that point.
That was just the fact that she could whip the water was the biggest negative.
No, just the way they went about it, because I guess if she wants to control it better when they're not in combat, but every critical scene when they are in danger, she's able to do what she's throwing water everywhere. I don't know. It just doesn't. It seems like she already knows how to do it. It's just this was sloppily written on how to get a better control over it.
All right, well, I guess let's move on. All right, Luke, your turn to go negatives. Your turn. Have fun.
So, you said hold on?
No, just go on.
Yeah, so my first negative is just Team Avatar boring, but we've already kind of covered that. And then I had a next couple of negatives where they're not really negatives, it was just, like, I was taking these notes as I was watching it, so I was just kind of like, my first thing was like, why is the Mechanist here? This is not where we find him. Yep. I felt like it was the Mechanist. The reason his whole plot was kind of cool is that he was in an air temple. Yeah. Like, I thought that was a pretty major element that they should have kept in.
There's a lot of themes they just completely went away with.
It's and like I think this is the problem with the whole show is like we keep saying it, but they keep trying to condense it. It's the whole why is the Mechanist here? In this episode 3 we see very little of Boomy. It's like this is okay. You're going to Omashu, and the first thing we're not seeing is like the whole introduction with Boomy. And then my third thing is right when the wagon pulls up and the guy's talking, I'm like, okay, is this supposed to be fucking Jet?
Yeah, that's instantly what I thought.
Yeah, and then later in the episode it's like, okay, Jet's here, and I would be okay with all of these things, being like, okay, let's just move the Mechanist, put him in Omashu. Let's move Jet, put him in Omashu, combine the plots. Because you could make it work. Yeah. Where, because, Jet, very much freedom fighter, wanted to take down any way possible the Fire Nation. And then Mechanist wants safety for his family or like his son or whatever, but happens to be working with the Fire Nation a little bit. And they can make it work. It's just, the show keeps suffering from all this condensing it's trying to do. And if they were to have just spread the plot over 2 episodes, like maybe have, because I liked, okay, a little bit of spoiler, I liked episode 4, but if they would have just had the plot of episode 4 going throughout the whole episode between these two with Aang, like that's his plot, and then Avatar and Sokka and Katara's plot is the whole Mechanist Jet plot. If they were to just spread that all over 2 episodes, it would be fine. It's just they keep trying to condense everything together, and that's where it's just like, we meet Jet, see Jet for 5 seconds, Jet's actually the bad guy. It's like, okay, any Avatar fan knows that's where it's going to go. But if you're just a new person to the show, it would be such a quick reveal that it's like, what's the fucking point of it being a reveal in the first place?
Yeah.
My next thing was, this was just like one of those how Logan has his issue with the water whip. This is my issue. When they're fighting the Fire Nation guys in the forest, like Jet and the Freedom Fighters, at one point, whatever the fucking archer guy's name is, I can't remember.
Lawn shot.
Lawn shot? Yeah, so he shoots an arrow, and I may have missed it, but it looks like all it does is hit the dude's shirt and gets him stuck to the tree.
Yes, that's exactly what it does.
And then they just walk away. They don't even knock him out. They do nothing. He's just like stuck to the tree with an arrow that he could easily just pull out.
Yep.
Like, okay, that's where I'm just like, what was the point of that scene? Just show you like take his head off or something. Why? What was the point of shooting him to the tree and then never showing him again? I don't know. I just feel like my big issue, just to speed up, is just it's always the same issue. Too much condensing. They're not giving any room for any of these plots to breathe. They're just like, oh, you like this guy? Here he is. Oh, you like the Mechanist? Here he is. Oh, yeah, they were in the air temple. No, now they're here, so Jet can be here, too. It's just, slow the fuck down, you know? Slow down.
Agreed.
Okay. And then, going back to Jet, I forgot to mention the whole plot of him being the bad guy of bombing. It just didn't feel as endangering as in the original show where they try flooding the entire little village of the Fire Nation people. In the show, in the live action one, they have a suitcase with a bomb in it that's planned to blow up the king of Omashu and the Mechanist and Tio, like just a few innocent people. In the show, there's more lives in danger. You have an entire village that they're going to flood that has none but Fire Nation people that are like, say, innocent. Probably some are guilty, but still, there's a bigger threat of killing more innocents than saying, okay, we're just going to blow up 5 people at max. So
I just think
the
Jet's
whole
motivation's completely different. Like,
Yeah.
just from both shows. Like, I'll talk about when I get to my negative, so continue, Logan, but...
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing I just wanted to bring up is, like, the whole thing is, like, innocent people are going to die. How Katara's like that. It's like, well, that is a great statement, but the catastrophe from the cartoon is way worse. And in my opinion, a more mature thing, because at the end of the cartoon one, water coming down from the village. You see the village is all flooded. You see a Dao, so you think everyone's dead. No, Sokka and Aang, I believe, I know Sokka did. They both go down and warn the people to get out of the village, and they do. So, like, the show leaves a suspense. Oh, crap. They failed in their mission. People have died and drowned, which is more a mature thing. This one, it's like, all right, here's a suitcase. Here's 5 people. We're going to shoot an arrow with launch shot. He's standing in the tree in a fire arrow in the daylight. In the highest part, with cards all around.
This is exactly where my negatives are going to begin.
And then when Katara does her water splash thing to the arrow, that arrow would have hit Tio, or whoever's standing to the right of the Mechanist with that pressure of the water.
I'm gonna take it from there. Okay, so all right, Jet and this character and this version of Jet, to me, I can't understand his motivations. I don't understand what he's talking about. Because in the original, it's like, okay, there's a village and there's a ton of firebenders or Fire Nation soldiers, to where the point is they can't like take them on a straight fight, right? Like they're a guerrilla force. They wait till some of these people are isolated and things like that. And so the thing for them is, okay, the only way we can free this village is if we kill everybody. So it's a really dark theme, but it's interesting. But again, the point is it's motivated by desperation. It's motivated by feeling of hopelessness or weakness that they can't actually take them on. Whereas here, that's the complete opposite. This is in the heart of the Earth Kingdom. Like, all you have to do is report these people to the guards, and guess what happens? The thing that happens in episode 4 happens right here. So there's no reason to bomb people. You bomb your own, places. It doesn't make any sense. It's like, it's so convoluted just to have Jet in this plot, to have it in there because it was in the original show. It's like, if you're not going to do it right, don't even bother. Don't do it. Don't bother, because then at least we can get more time with our characters and actual plots they're trying to develop. This didn't matter.
Yeah. And another thing with Jet's plot, because it's in the cartoon, there's only those 5: Jet, Pipsqueak, the guy with the face paint.
Yeah, they definitely made more of them. There wasn't that
for
many.
5 seconds, you see a whole army, and then they're just like,
so
never
you have
again.
a whole army of the Lost Boys, essentially. Why can't you send the younger kids to be spies to have ears on who's all the stuff? Like what Game of Thrones did?
I was literally going to make this point too.
Yeah,
I was going to say.
I'll let you take it from there.
All right. So, why don't we just do this instead? Because the other part of this is because they introduced the Jet plotline. They're like, okay, well, we got to have them living in the forest and stuff. Every single time that we see that on screen, we have to remember that Katara off screen is going in and out of Amashu. Multiple times. And I'm sitting here like, do the guards just not care anymore, or just she have street cred now because Jet got her in, like talked him in or something? Like that scene was like just came off as like Jet is got a nice sweet tongue or something, and the guards like, okay, you're fine, I guess.
Oh, here's another question I had. Unless I missed it, where the fuck did Appa go? He was like,
idea.
he was
I have
there in
no
the
idea.
beginning of the episode, and then we never see him
no
again,
idea.
even during all the fighting. It's like, okay, they could have called him
Dude.
Appa at least at one of these moments.
There's a lot of
to do
logical
something.
problems with this episode.
Yeah,
Dude,
I just don't. I think the whole thing is just the whole plot of even going to Amashu in this episode, in this series, because it's like in the original, didn't he go to find like see Boomy or something like that, or there's a bigger reason. It was because like he was like wants to show them like
they wanted to
Amashu.
use the
yeah. And then he sees Boomy and all that. This one's just like, oh, looky there, let's go there.
Yeah.
And we're just like, okay, I guess
because there's an
we're here now.
airbender there.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, I guess we're here now. It's like, what was the point of it?
They just combined so many things, and I'm just like, so okay. Long story short, where I was saying where they could have just gone with the Jet plot instead of having it be very convoluted, it's just have Jet be like he's running the underground like spy network for the resistance against the Fire Nation or something, or just have it to where it's integrated into the plot instead of making its own thing. And so then you can have, okay, well, they're getting very frustrated because the Fire Nation is throwing them off. But again, you can't do that with the episodes because the one Fire Nation guy that we see literally has Fire Nation colors on, doing a trade deal in the middle of the square or the area of the marketplace. I'm just sitting here like,
he had a hood on. He had a hood on. That means he's hidden.
I'm just like, I guess the Earth Kingdom just doesn't care because I'm like, this is happening directly in the middle of everyone. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, this is the problem is because they wanted the Jet stuff to happen, it makes the Earth Kingdom just look stupid. It makes all their soldiers look stupid. And it gets even worse towards the end, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I just think the Jet stuff didn't really work. The show, in my opinion, this episode, like, lost me from feeling anything like the original. Like,
Yeah,
I thought
definitely.
episode 1 and 2, it kind of still was in the same... It kind of felt the same because you were in the same locations. They were rushing and forcing things, but it still somewhat felt like the show. This episode didn't feel like anything like the show.
It's just not fun. The show,
Yeah,
it's
not
just
fun.
not fun because the whole thing was Amashu. It was just when we go to Amashu in the original show, we get the cool fucking highway things. We
Yeah.
get funny Boomy. We get the whole element of his dog beast thing, Fluffy or whatever. It's just the show is supposed to be fun. The show's not fun. It's just not fun.
No. The show is the embodiment of Sokka in the show. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
dry.
Very
Because
stale.
especially whenever
Stale at moments, let's say that.
Yeah, yeah.
Episode
like
4, it's
whenever-
not as stale.
Whenever Jet and Katara were flirting with each other on the little hayride into the city, Sokka makes like a snarky comment, like under his breath. Well, it doesn't come off as funny or anything. It just comes off that he's an ass and just annoyed with everything in the show because how his character's written.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
agree.
and it gets worse in episode 4 for Sokka because like every funny moment that's supposed to happen, he's already so dry in the show that it's not funny. He's just pissed off at everything in the show. He's, it's lifeless in my opinion.
Agreed. I will say though, another thing, because I mentioned this briefly in my positives, is I liked the Fire Nation stuff, but at the same time, I felt like Zuko and Iroh were forced into this episode because it's like they just off screen end up in the middle of Amashu, and you're just sitting here like, wait,
It's that easy to get in.
how the hell did they get in? Because our main crew, and they're not even Fire Nation, they had to have like somebody get them in. And so I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, well maybe there was that line at the very beginning where it's like, oh, we have Fire Nation spies in there, but how did those Fire Nation spies get them in?
How did they know
It
that
could
they
have
were
worked.
coming?
It's just
Yeah.
we don't see it. So now
Okay.
the audience is left to figure out what happened.
Oh my god, the other
Like
dumb
either
thing-
way, like regardless of what the explanation is, you're now making the audience have to figure out why they got in or how they got in.
It's just the whole show. It's just like we're just like put these people here, put these people here, put these
Yeah.
people here. It's like
And then-
okay, we need some more connection than just being like now they're here now.
The other little gripe I have, once again, the Firecast hold those people are great. The one scene that kind of hurt them a bit was when, after Zuko and Aang were fighting in the city, how now Zuko and Iroh are trying to get out of the city as the walls are closing. There was no reason for Iroh to do
Yep.
the whole thing for the Fire Nation.
This was my
because-
other negative. Yeah, we're
yeah.
yep.
because they were already walking towards the door.
Makes no logical
And,
sense.
and the guards, they couldn't identify Prince Zuko with the scar at all.
He was the one doing the
Oh.
firebending as well. So if they
Yeah.
can't recognize him, they're
Yeah.
not gonna recognize Iroh.
So-
Like
The guy with the big fire scar.
yeah.
Yeah, it was stupid because they should have left it how it was like in the actual show, which I think it's in season 2. Luke, am I right? How Iroh gets captured.
No, that's in season 1 still.
Yeah, he gets
That's
captured in season 1, but it's
Oh,
like
okay, I
very
can't
different.
remember.
Because that's when he's
Yeah.
in the
The show's
in the
giving me
bath.
brain fog about stuff now, but
Yeah.
yeah,
But-
it's like, yeah,
It was there's just a lot of moments where I'm like, why did we do that?
Yeah.
There was such a better way, and this is the reason, right? Because they want Iroh to be captured for the next episode so that a whole plot can happen in episode 4. But it's just like, just figure out a way to do it better than just Iroh's like, hey, I'm just going to go run at them, and you can get away. It's like, but if he can get away, so can you get away.
right.
So, I just don't understand.
Yeah, no, it's
So, yeah, the problem with this episode is everything felt forced for certain things they wanted to do in episode 4. And so, it is what it is. But, again, I also thought basically the entire Aang plot in this episode, I thought was just, I was just bored by. But it feels like people know things. Like the engineer and his kid, I don't know their names. I don't particularly care because they suck in this show anyway. But they are both like, they just know things that I'm just questioning how they know them. Like, how do they know? Well, I know why the one guy would know, but how would they know where Jet is getting his trade deal at? Like, how would this kid know that?
He's a wizard science kid.
But then it's going to come up in the next episode too, where there's just something where it's like a character knows something, and you're sitting here like, he doesn't seem that important, so how does he know this? And I'm just like, okay. But yeah, so I just think the big thing to take away from this episode is, why did this happen? And 2, they put it in there because it was forced and they needed it to happen.
Yeah. Pretty much. That's what the whole show is. That's what this whole show is.
Yes. So far, the whole show could be summarized in the reviews of the Shyamalan movie one by the kids saying, it sucked.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right,
crazy.
let's get to our final ratings. Luke, give us your final rating for this episode.
A 5 out of 10.
5 out of 10.
5
All
out
right.
of 10, yeah.
Logan,
I have to agree with my brother. 5 out of 10.
I'm at a 6 out of 10 for this episode. So
Man, you crazy.
I was one ahead.
Oh man,
But-
you're really helping those the writers' rights protests with doing that.
Oh,
score.
hey, a 6 is not a pass. So I'm just saying, it's not a pass.
What did I give the first episode? I think I gave them
You
like
gave it
a
I think you gave it like a 6 point something. Or maybe you gave it a 7.
I don't even know. I don't even know anymore.
I don't know. But that concludes our episode 3 show, and we'll be back for episode 4 in the same clothes. So, yeah. Bye, guys.